So welcome everybody to our Saturday morning webinar hosted by normally Dan Hammer and our Synergy family. Today, this is Judy Feldhausen and Bob Wischmeier, and we are going to talk about our ongoing discussion by Les Brown from his book, 12 Laws That Turn Dreams into Reality. And today we're going to talk about lead by serving the needs of others. So it's so great to have you as a co-host today, Bob.
Oh, it's great to be here, Judy. Thank you very much. And there's a lot of information here today, so we have things to talk about. You know, this is the kind of leadership webinar, I think, where there's a huge difference between being an introvert or an extrovert, and I think it really comes into play with this particular topic, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. And leaders really do have to get out of their own way.
Yeah, there's no question. I was going to mention too, Judy, and I wrote it down in my notes, but for those of you who might be interested, there's a book by Ron Hall and Denver Moore called Same Kind of Different as Me. My daughter-in-law had recommended that I read it. In fact, she sent me a copy of it. I read it. It just took a couple of sittings almost, to read the book, but talk about an insight into what really true heartfelt service means, both to the recipient and to the giver. It's a wonderful book. Same Kind of Different as Me. It's worth reading, you guys. So if you're looking for a quick read that's uplifting, challenging too, but uplifting, talking about leading by serving the needs of others, there's a great book for you.
And Bob, who's the author with that?
Yeah, Ron Hall and Denver Moore. It's a collaborative effort there. Ron Hall and Denver Moore.
Neat. Well, and Les Brown really talks about the actions that we do. And he said something that really touched me. He said every action should be motivated by a desire to leave the world better than you found it. Your goal should be to help yourself by helping other people.
Yeah, the guy's profound, isn't he? I mean, it's every time we do one of these webinars and talk about Les Brown, I think I end up loving the guy even a little bit more than I did before. It's just truth. He just speaks truth, and I love that. I thought about, in fact, when I was reading through this, I owned a business in Montana a long time ago. We were in the cattle business and livestock. I owned a meat business, a butcher shop and all of those kinds of things. And I did big game processing, all kinds of things. Well, we had a competitor that was just right down the road. And when I started with my partner, when we bought out his father in our business, the other guy had a much better facility than we did and was way more successful. There were 3 of us in our business, and he had 8 employees, and he was busy. And he'd made some comments one day, unkind comments about my partner, and it bothered me. It bothered me, and I thought, I'm going to put this guy out of business, which was a terrible thing to say, but I felt that way at the time. And I thought, how can I do that? And for one thing, we rebuilt our facility, so we had a beautiful facility, but the other part of it was service. I knew that if I could give more service to the people who came to my business, who turned to us for whatever, we had a retail wholesale business and et cetera. If I could give better service than him, we'd be successful. And when I sold out in 1989, sold my portion of the business out, we had 8 employees, and he had 1 part-time employee, and that was it. And the difference was service, the service we gave to our customers.
Yeah, it really does make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Anyway.
And when we're looking at service, you did it through, you've done it many ways, but specifically you did it through serving the customers that were, part of your community. And there are just so many different ways to serve. And Les Brown talks about several of them. And when I saw that first one, giving advice, for some reason, yeah, I think that really is important. But I like to step into the place with offering advice rather than giving advice. It's just, I guess it's a coaching thing, but I don't like to tell people what to do, but to make some great suggestions and look at people with their freedom in mind to offer your advice, or to give it with solicitation, I think is important. But a lot of times people are looking to others to just get some assistance.
Well, they are. I don't know how many times I've sent out an email and with an explanation and then a one-word question, thoughts. Give me your thoughts. What do you think about this? And you're soliciting a little advice, and it's what we do. It's what everybody does, for heaven's sake. But volunteering, of course, the next thing on our list here has always been huge to me. I mentioned before that I've worked and volunteered with the Boy Scouts of America for years. I'm not anymore. I'm old as dirt now, but I did for a lot of years. And on Father's Day, Judy, I had 5 young men. They're all about 20 now, I guess. 5 young men drove all the way out here to our place, and we live a long ways out in the country. I guess it's not a long ways in miles, but it's country roads, and brought me gifts and Father's Day cards and things of that nature. 5 boys. I helped those boys to get their Eagle as Boy Scouts, worked with them in a young men's program, and went to their ball games and their track meets and all of those kinds of things that you do when you volunteer and when you really care for people. But it pays off in spades. I couldn't believe my eyes when the knock on the door and I look up, it's Father's Day. I was on the phone with one of my kids, and in walks 5 young men, big, tall kids, bringing me gifts for Father's Day. I mean, talk about a reward. That when you serve others, you find yourself, I think. And I sure had a wonderful Father's Day because of that. Judy?
Yeah, so much. I found that when you volunteer, you receive more than you give.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, of course, coaching, something that I've been doing as a profession. Gosh, it's 20 years. It's like, that's just so scary. But you don't need to have a coaching degree to coach. There's so many ways that you can be an ear and be able to talk to people and guide them without any formal training.
Well, you can even just yell from the couch too. You can really coach it. Yeah, right?
Yell at the TV, Bob.
Yell at the TV.
Any good.
Yeah, exactly. Gracious. But yeah, again, just ways to serve. I mean, we should be looking for ways to serve, and it pays off in spades in our businesses. When you give people more than they're expecting, it's a huge benefit. And the kind of business that we do is so people oriented. We're in the network marketing business, but more importantly for me anyway, is the fact that what we're doing is sharing products that change people's lives. We're giving people more than they're receiving. It's because of the quality of the products that we market that we're able to serve people in different ways. We help them with their health, sometimes with finances, etc. But and then we need to learn to listen. It's like we say all the time: you've got one mouth and 2 ears. And listening to people is extremely important in our business. People want to talk about their health, right? They want to share their thoughts with you. They're not going to do that if you just keep talking. Eric Glenn used to say, don't throw up on people when it comes to your business. Let people talk to you and then address what they have to say. Judy?
Yeah, that's so true. And if you remember our lesson on listening, there's 3 levels of listening, and you really have to put on the level 2 listening, which is focusing on what someone else is saying from an empathetic view, and not put yourself in the mix, but put themselves in the mix when you are really intent on what they are saying and what it means to them.
Yeah, so often someone will share something with you and you're so busy waiting for them to quit talking so that you can tell them about your experience with the same thing. It's like that's not great listening.
No, it absolutely isn't. And I wanted to mention too about the feeding people. This time in our country, there are a lot of people that have lost their jobs that really need some additional help. And it reminds me of someone that I met about a month ago. His name is Doc. And Doc actually lost everything that he had. He was in the real estate crash in 2008 and 9. He lost everything, 11 buildings, just devastated. He ended up moving into the inner city of Chicago from New York, but back home to his roots. He moved back into the inner city. And it's a terrible, terrible neighborhood, and there's a lot of poverty there. And someone knocked on his door and asked his wife for a meal. And so she actually made a meal for this guy. And that opened up it opened up their doors. They ended up together buying a 3-story building, opening up a soup kitchen. And now his wife has passed, but he is feeding 30,000 meals a year to people in the inner city of Chicago. And he is actually creating a leadership program for youth between the ages of 15 and 18, because he feels that age, that they are warriors and they're coming into their leadership abilities then. And there's a choice to go into gangs, which is a level of leadership, or go into service of other people. And he's teaching the service of other people and is making an amazing difference here in the inner city of Chicago.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Gosh, that's great.
He's an amazing person.
Oh, anyway, cool. Yeah, look at this. Create value. What do you think? Taking pride in your work. And when I was reading through this information this last week about creating value and stuff, and taking pride in your work, it brought to mind something that a friend had said to me not long ago. We had some friends here that they were in the process of finishing a home. They were living in a really beat up old farmhouse while they got their new house built. But there'd been some financial setbacks, some problems. You know how things happen in life. And so they had intended to be moved into their new house out of the old beat up, run down, fallen down, windy farmhouse into their new home. Well, it was supposed to be about a 1-year project. When they approached me, it would have been 10 years that they'd been waiting. And they have a special needs daughter, a blind special needs daughter. It has been challenging. Well, they got their finances turned around. And we'd invited them over to our home one day, and they liked the finish work that we had done in our home. And anyway, one day he approached me and he said, we want to get moved into our new home. If we can do it, we don't want to spend one more Christmas in that old drafty old house. It's cold all the time. Can you help me? I love the finish work you do. And it was such a touching thing to me to be able to turn around and go to this man's house and help them get all that finish work done, finish the floors and all the trim work, and get them moved in there for Christmas that year. You know, it was an honor, if you will. It almost felt like a sacred thing to be able to do that and get that beautiful special needs daughter of theirs. She wanted her bedroom painted pink, and she's completely blind. They could have painted that room black. She wouldn't have known the difference, but they painted that room pink. And, you know, it was just touching. His wife, this guy's wife said, you know, my husband has great vision and great ideas, and he's very artistic, but he gets to about 85%, and then he has another project he wants to do. And the good news is that at the 85% spot, that's where I come into play, because I love to finish projects. And so we got that house finished, and it's beautiful. And their little girl has her pink bedroom. Create value by the work that you do. It's really important, I think, and taking pride in our work. Judy?
Well, that's so true, Bob. And a lot of times we create value and not know the effect it has on other people. So, you know, painting that bedroom pink for someone that could not even see the color is such a great thing. I remember I coached someone years and years ago, and I, you know, said things that I thought were obvious and pretty straightforward. And several years later, the woman came back to me and said, I never forgot what you said. And it was such an impact on my life. It changed the direction of where I was going in my life. And I'm so grateful for that. And to me, it just touched me in that I didn't, at the time, think that what I said was all that important. But the way she received it, it was. So no matter what we're doing, you know, it's not about just doing something and doing the minimum. It is about giving your all, whether you realize the impact or not on it.
Yeah, and you have to stop and consider the term pride. You know, in some respects, pride can be our downfall. So we've got to be cautious about that. But taking pride in the quality of the work that we do and the way we help people is a whole different word. It's just a matter of semantics, because it's important that we individually recognize that we have certain gifts. All of us do. You know, you look at the things that Dan Hammer does that the rest of us can't do. I mean, it's singular and significant. And we all have that within us. We all have a value and an ability to do certain things in certain ways. And when we can share that, when we can take what we can do well and share that with others, that does create value, and it changes people's lives. Just simply inviting 3 people to our house to have a little luncheon with us one day ended up really, for me, a life-changing event. That little gal, Allie, said to me while we were doing their house and I was fixing up her room, she said, Bob, can you make me a magnet board? And I said, sure, Ellie, I'd love to, you know, and she's completely blind, but she collects magnets. So I built her a magnet board for her wall in her room. A few months later, I was over there and she said, Bob, can you make me another magnet board? And I looked into her room and the first one was completely covered with magnets. It was the coolest thing. I said, sure, Ellie, I'd love to. So I did. You know, and there's that, being able to use some skill and experience that you have to bless the life of someone else. How do you beat that?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we don't even know what that brilliance that we have is. And of course, that's a whole other subject, but just to continue taking the pride in what we're doing and doing the next level, wherever that is, we will all discover that brilliance.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Look at you.
So I love this slide. You always have opportunity if you show up to serve. And, that is so true. When you are in service with others, you have natural conversations. You get to know each other. You find out about each other. People are curious. They're going to start asking questions. Hey, what do you do besides volunteering? And it will build up another conversation. Those opportunities are there everywhere. And it might be an opportunity to serve for another service. Who knows where it's going to go? But when you show up and you becoming, you're available to other people, other things happen. It's just amazing. Some things have been happening in my life lately that I am absolutely astounded on. I'm meeting people that I never thought was possible. I had a conversation with the top NFL mind coach in the country that has changed some. He's made 4 MVPs, and he just introduced me to the top NHL mind coach in the country for some projects that I am doing. And, I'm not even a sports person. So for me to get into this arena would have been totally out of my bag of tricks. But I had an opportunity to show up and to serve, and doors are being opened.
I think that's so cool. Good for you. Yeah, it seems like every time a door opens or a window closes, a door opens or something to that effect. And it's just true. If you show up, there will be an opportunity. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's a funny thing. When I worked in the freight business in Montana, I did quite a bit of business with a log home company called Alpine Log Homes. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with log home building, but in the Bitterroot Valley of western Montana, that was the biggest log home group of companies in America was in the Bitterroot Valley. There were just, I don't know, there must have been 10 different log home places. And a lot of those log homes were sent, to Japan, to Russia, all over the world. It's really an interesting business. But and they had large crews there. A lot of men and women worked there. I asked one of the managers one day about an individual who had applied for a job with us, with the business that I worked with. He used to work for the log home. And I said, hey, this guy's Kelly. He's applied for a job. He's not working for you anymore. I didn't want to get him in trouble. He wasn't working anymore. I said, but how was he for an employee? And the head guy, the foreman at the log home place said, well, good. He came to work every day. That's all it took. That's all it took for him to be a good employee, was that he always showed up. And I thought, well, that's interesting. That's almost the opposite of the positive thing we're looking at here. All he had to do to be a good employee was to show up for work every day. Anyway, it's just interesting how things work out.
Absolutely. Well, in that way, his employer thought that he was serving.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the standard's not very high there, but we get it.
Yeah. And this slide really is huge by Martin Luther King Jr. Everybody can create because everybody can serve. Everybody can be great because everybody can serve. That says
touching.
says so much. And it actually reminds me to with another person that I met 2 weeks ago. His name is Abram. And Abram is a musician in Nashville, Tennessee. And a couple of years ago, he stopped playing. He wasn't really successful. He went on to other things. The music kind of died in him. And in the last few weeks, something has lit up. And it wasn't actually his music to begin with, but he saw what was happening in Nashville with the coronavirus. And he has actually seen a vision and now has a mission to unite the world back together with all of the unrest that's going on. It just is such a heavy part, has made such a heavy piece in his heart that he's creating a mission for a National Day of Unity. And he's getting supporters from all over the United States, from all levels of business and entertainment. And he's creating something that he's calling One Day. And that one day is going to be uniting the world of all different religions, different people. And he's creating a National Day of Peace, which is going to be next May 21st. And he's so excited to do this. He's still a young guy. I think he's in his 30s, but he's having speakers and music and just so much going on because he sees a way to serve the bigger world. And it's so exciting for me that I'm going to be a part of this community that he's putting together to help the world heal. So, something might start really small and just continue to grow.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing, Judy. I'm going to bring this down to a much smaller level than what he's doing. Last Wednesday, Bonnie and I were invited to the senior citizens luncheon in this little town, Troy, Idaho, where we live. There must have been 20 people there. I don't know. Sometimes there a lot of people come, but they had a luncheon and they did it in a park so everybody could be sitting apart, have a little social distancing. Well, it's just a group of elderly country folk, farmers and primarily farm people. And anyway, it's kind of fun. And we've gone a couple of times, but I never think I'm really old enough to go, but we go anyway. But I am old enough to go. Well, anyway, we had our lunch, and the lady who is the president of the senior citizens group asked for a vote. They wanted to have change the officers, and Bonnie raised her hand to ask a question, and so when she did, this lady nominated her to be the new president of the group. All Bonnie was trying to do was find out a little information about what was involved, and the next thing I know, Bonnie was the new president of the Troy, Idaho Senior Citizens Group. I about fell off the bench I was sitting on. I'm like, what just happened? I only knew one other person there. I don't even know all these people. Anyway, it can happen within your community in a heartbeat, you guys. Never raise your hand unless you know what you're doing. So we'll have fun with it, but everybody can be great because everybody can serve. And Bonnie's going to serve this group of older people in our community. She'll serve them very well. She's a lot of fun. She's funny. She does fun things. She's organized. And so it'll be good. It'll be good. It won't be as big as what you have going on, Judy, but it might have an impact on this little town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so cool. And so there's so many ways we can serve, right? With our community, like Bonnie is doing, with our customers, just being there for them doesn't mean that we have to give them things, but we can serve them by listening and understanding what they're going through.
Oh yeah, Ted Earl is on the webinar with us today. Ted gets on almost all of our calls and stuff. And Judy, we don't see any kind of financial value when we associate with Ted Earl or get him information or whatever. It hasn't got anything to do with making money. But Ted's part of Synergy Worldwide. He's become a close friend of ours. And so when we have opportunities to reach out to help him or Betsy Bartlett or somebody who associates with us, we do it because we want to serve our fellow men and our fellow Synergy distributors. Rising tide lifts all ships, right?
That is absolutely true. And we love you, Ted, and all that you give to our community.
Absolutely. Dear friend. Anyway, this next slide, look at that.
Yes. So if serving is below you, leadership is beyond you.
Yeah, I wrote it in my journal this morning.
And, Simon Sinek actually wrote about this. He did an essay called The Evolution of Servant Leadership. And in that, he actually talks about servant leadership and how it can be found even 40 and 50,000 years ago, when people lived in small populations, tribes, and those tribes would war with each other. It was the leader that protected the tribe. The leader would go ahead and fight for his people, and really that leadership ability, it's hardwired in all of us. And when danger threatens, even as a parent, we are going to protect our young. That's part of servant leadership.
Yeah. When I first looked at this picture, when you sent this to me the other day, the very first thing that came into my mind was Mother Teresa. For whatever reason, I just thought that's Mother Teresa,
Yes.
Always serving. Yeah.
Always serving. Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. The Simon Sinek, is that a book?
No, it was not a book. It was actually an article that he wrote, and the title of that article was The Evolution of Servant Leadership.
Okay, got it.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I got to look that up. I'm a huge fan.
Yes, and of course Simon Sinek wrote Start With Why.
Exactly. Beautiful book.
And when I saw this slide, Bob, I thought about you. I must admit, you and your honeybees.
Yeah, and I think that's a bumblebee, but close enough,
Okay, so I don't know. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that for me, when I glanced at this too, I did think of my bees, and those are all girls. All those worker bees and the queen bee, they're all girls. The queen runs the hive. She's the boss. Everything is centered around her. She just does everything. And she's almost clairvoyant. She can tell what the nectar flow is and how much brood should be in the hive and how much honey should be there, all of those things. But every single one of those worker bees, whether they're a nursery bee or whether they're out gathering nectar and pollen or whatever, it's all to serve everyone else. It's for the collective good of the hive. And they serve, that's what they do. They take care of one another. I love bees. I can't, I just do. I spend a lot of time staring at my beehives and watching those bees coming in and out. I watch their little legs to see how much pollen they have and what they're doing. I open the hives and I look at the bees, and they take care of one another. It's really cool stuff, Judy.
And that is a part of leadership, is that service that we to be successful in a bigger way have to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful doctrine, if you will. I really love it. This has been a fun opportunity to talk about the things that we've been talking about today. How important it is that we do learn to serve others, and how much more we gain from it. I think we grow. Again, I think we find ourselves when we serve others. And good philosophy, Judy. Thank you so much for leading out on this today.
And thank you, Bob. And if there are any questions or comments about this, we open the mics here, and or open your own mic, and please let us know your thoughts before we leave you.
Do you think we just wowed them so much that they can't even think of anything to say?
I think so.
There we are.
So any questions or comments?
Just thank you for sharing what you did today, because it's the foundation of being able to enjoy rewards that far go beyond financial.
Yeah, and but Dan, you just reminded me, before we started here, we were actually talking about Zoom, and did not bring that up, but Zoom is a servant leader in their own way. They had a platform that they made available to so many teachers around the country, free for all the teachers around the country, if they wanted to use the platform when children were asked to leave the classroom. And by doing that, by making that offer, they have become the leader in virtual programming in just a few months.
Really great stuff. I was thinking just now, there's a scriptural reference in the New Testament talking about Jesus, and it says, and he went about doing good. And I think of that often. He went about doing good. And I want to be that guy that goes about doing good,
Awesome. And to me, you are that guy, Bob.
Well, I love the picture because I have a beard now, so I don't look the same.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we should update your picture, because I updated mine this time.
Yeah, you just get prettier all the time, Judy.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it very much. Dan, thanks for taking care of us. That's it for me, Judy.
Me too. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your week.
We're going to have Deb Durfee is going to chat with us Monday morning. If you want to get on the call with us Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time. And Deb Durfee is going to be on and share some thoughts with us from Synergy Corporate. So you're sure welcome to join us. We love it when people get on that Monday morning call.
Awesome. I'll be there.
All right. Thanks, Judy. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.